My name is John Bell from the Good Trouble Brass Band, and also helping my wonderful colleagues Stephanie, Marilyn, Rebe, and Isabel organize this event. And together here, I think we have Ted McManus from Forward Marching Band in Madison, Wisconsin, and
I'm Jay.
Jay. Oh, pleasure to meet you. Wow, that's fantastic. Jay Powser from Mayday Marching Band, and Dress and Nancy and Kangs from Brass Liberation Orchestra, like triple representation. So, and then Davey, Steinman stepped out, but will be coming back, and then Sarah Blust from Rude Mechanical Orchestra should be on their way. So I had asked, let's see. I had asked these representatives in this short period of time we have to talk about how they create band actions, and we should all always talk in the microphone if we're going to speak. We'll just pass them around. And then this is all being recorded, so I hope everybody knows that. Maybe I should change places with you, but no, that's okay. You're to the left of me. That's good. Okay. The thing, Davey, here's Davey. Oh, you need a chair. There's a chair over there. Davey Steinman from Brass Solidarity from Minneapolis. So, okay, so to my mind, just especially, and Sarah Blust from Rude Mechanical Orchestra. So it's, if anyone else wants to come up, no, just kidding. It's going to be very incisive. I think especially since the last election, like the use of public space and the sort of politicization of political speech, and like somebody just outside was approached by the campus police because they were handing out pieces of paper that apparently a student was upset to be given a piece of paper. But the political situation with a QR code on it is more fraught, it seems to me, and maybe getting fraughter. So I was wondering how different bands coordinate your band's actions in terms with the relation and coordination with the action organizers. Like with us, sometimes we play with for activist groups of different sorts or unions, etc. It's always different how we connect with them. The logistics for actions, how do you organize your actions, what you want to do in those actions, and then what do you do in your actions, like are you doing chants, and do you make those up? Do you work with the group you're working with? Do you play specific music for different activist events or actions? Is it about costumes or things that you bring that are visual? And what seems to be most effective? And we have like representatives from 5 different bands. So, and we have a limited amount of time. So maybe I'll just start to my left with Ted from Forward Marching Band, and I'm going to watch the clock.
So how much time do we have?
9.5 minutes.
Really? Okay.
Maybe 9:45.
Okay. All right. Hi. Oop. Is that working? Hi. So Forward plays 4 different kinds of gigs, pretty much. We play political actions. We play community events. We pay a bare handful of pay the rent gigs. And we busk on our Capitol Square. And these each have a different kind of audience in a different kind of setting, and they perform a different kind of work. And I want to talk about mostly the political actions because that's what the main question was about, and also our busking actions, because I think they are maybe a useful example, and I think the work that they perform is pretty important too. So for political actions, rallies, demos, marches, that's our natural habitat. That's why we were formed with those in mind. We play those for free. We play those for an audience that, by and large, already agrees with us. Or at least the direct audience for those rallies, demos, and marches. There's also an accidental audience that didn't know they were going to be an audience that day, and they don't necessarily already agree. And that's important. Our function at these kinds of actions, we see our function as drawing focus to amplify the message and the work of the other groups that we are supporting. They are policy experts in their various areas, and we are generalists, but we are good at attracting attention. And we are good at setting emotions, which is really important for priming an audience to receive those messages. So in practice, what do we do when we work with these groups? This is pretty standard if you've done these things. We play before the action in the space to gather a crowd and to warm that crowd up with energy, so it feels like something exciting is going to happen there. And then we turn things over to speakers in the case of a rally, or maybe we just lead into to a march. If we play in the march, if there's a march, how do we fit into the march? We might lead it, we might trail it. We perform different functions in those different positions, right? If we lead it, we attract an audience and focus so that people are paying attention when the folks with the chants and the signs and the bucket drums come by. And we have set a positive tone and framing for that accidental audience to be receptive to the messaging that is coming, so that people don't just encounter a loud bunch of bucket drums and demanding chanters. We herald the coming of the march. We can make it look bigger than it is because we have big sound and we're all acting in concert, which also suggests there's some organization and some power behind the action. Also, we are directional. So if we are at the front and it's important to the marchers to chant, then we are not impeding them. Earlier this morning, Aaron Allen was talking about working with the chanters, and that is better for, as discussion teased out, that was better for an ear band, and we are largely a reading band. That is very hard for us, so it takes more advanced preparation, and I don't know how much extra time everybody here has and how easy scheduling is for your band, but for our band, scheduling is the hardest thing we do. So that's a problem that we have not solved. We would love to, but we are not good at it yet. If we are trailing the march, then we give our energy not to the audience of the march, but to the marchers themselves. So if it's a small march, that's really helpful. If it is a march on a unpopulated or a low populated route, then it can feel that can feel pretty bad if you're a marcher, and so it definitely boosts the energy of the people in the march if small and on a poorly chosen route. At the back, we can also be a buffer between the main march and the police if there's a police escort, so we can be protecting vulnerable populations who are in the march that way. We've been asked to do that, and that it feels really good to contribute that way. It's definitely harder for the people in front of us to chant if we're in the back. We can also split the difference, be in the middle, so that we're providing energy and folks positioned behind us can chant pretty freely. If we're at the front, then when we hit the destination, we can turn around and play music for the rest of the marchers who haven't been able to hear us so well and haven't gotten all the energy from that. So we can play music for them as they continue to arrive to the space before we turn it over to the speechifiers. let's see. When we hit that destination, we want to not be the sole focus on the steps or wherever we are. We encourage people with signs, relevant signs, to fill in around us, to be in the frame for whatever photographs are taken, because those photographs will live on long past the hour of the action. They can live on. They will circulate on social media for a few days, but some of them you can find still years later. What else? Organizers, I don't know, maybe organizers ask you, we'd really like you to play music at the start of our rally, and then we would love for you to send us off at the very end with some music too. And we push back against that. We resist the bookending structure. It's very, very difficult to retain all our people for that duration, and instruments fall out of tune and everything. Okay, what do we play? We play 3 different song types. For these things, we have energy songs. So New Orleans, like Rebirth is great for bringing the energy. We have topic songs. We have general topic songs like that are appropriate for many, many situations, like somebody has been lying, so Would I Lie to You by the Eurythmics fits very well. Anytime somebody's being exclusionary towards various groups, immigrants, LGBTQ, whatever, we are family. We play that. It fits so many situations. Anytime we have been losing, as we've been doing a lot lately, our resilience song is Tub Thumping by Chumbawamba. I get knocked down, but I get up again. Ain't never gonna keep me down. That's our resilience song. We have a couple others. We also have a drawer full of topic-specific songs about war, about people being deemed illegal. We have a bunch of union songs. We have 3 songs about voting. And then we have Mad Lib songs. We have fill-in-the-blank songs. How many people's bands play Saints when Saints Go Marching In? Okay, that's such a great fill-in-the-blank song, right? Our standard is When We Make Peace Instead of War. Yeah, that's so easy, but we've done it as When We Have Healthcare for All, When Trans Rights are Human Rights, When We Save Our Mother Earth. It's so easy. And people love Saints. They really do. It makes them feel good. Also, We Got That Fire, right? Okay, we want new gun laws. We want new gun laws. We want fair wages. We want fair wages. Let's save the planet. Let's save the planet. After Roe v. Wade, we want our rights back. We want our rights back. You learn 2 songs and you can play for any number of occasions with specificity. My time is up. Sorry for running over by 20 seconds.
Thank you. Thank you, Ted McManus. I forgot to mention, I feel like for us, one of the things that we've been doing more is de-escalation training, not just in the past couple of years when it started to seem necessary. And Matt Taylor from our band and others are leading de-escalation training here for people. I don't have in my mind exactly when that is. But at the Dilboy tomorrow, 2 to 5. Thank you, Kathleen. So Jay Powser is from Pittsburgh and the May Day Marching Band. Thanks, Jay.
Hey, everybody.
Hey, Jay.
All right. Well, I have kind of 3 broad areas I want to talk about today. The first is kind of like general logistics, and then I'd like to relate kind of a few specific experiences I've had recently and lessons learned from them. And then I'd kind of like to talk about musicianship on like an existential level. So the first thing is when it comes to coordination. So as a band, we are not usually the initiators of an action. You know, we are called upon to serve an action in some way, shape, or form. So once that starts off, there's kind of this reading the room step. Like what phase is your organizer at? Like, are they veterans? Are they pros? Do they, do this on a regular basis and they have everything figured out, they have all the safety, they have all the marching routes, they have all of that down? Or are they potentially going to need some input? And so there's an opportunity there if you read the room and you have people who are veteran participants in actions, and as musicians we happen to do things that get a lot of attention. We tend to have a lot of influence on the tone and shape an action takes. You accrue a bit of expertise, or at the very least experience, over time. So I'd say the first thing is read the room, and is there an avenue, an opportunity, or even a demand for you to use your other experience, not just your musicianship, in setting up and coordinating the initial action itself. One thing that this came up in recently is we were doing a flotilla march, and so in Pittsburgh is the city of three rivers. We have a confluence there where two rivers meet to form one. And so there's a lot of boating around. And a recent event in Palestine that's going on is the flotilla that was trying to break the siege, and they called upon people to field solidarity flotillas. Because of our geography in Pittsburgh, there was an event coming up where we were going to basically have people on land marching, and we were going to have a whole bunch of watercraft out in the river, and we were going to be side by side. So I thought this was a really cool opportunity. I wanted to get on top of it in a hurry, but there were a lot of questions from the very beginning. So immediately, I was making sure that band people were in every single meeting and listening to what was going on and offering our input. Because that was a situation where there was a great deal of opportunity and even some degree of demand to provide that. And one of the things that I drove home is you want to keep moving, because if you're worried about the legal implications or consequences of what you're doing, one of the steps that you can take to minimize your police interaction potential is to have a clear schedule and keep moving and stick to that schedule. And so that ended up being a pretty fundamental part of the plan and the communications going forward, and I ultimately think that was very effective. And then, occasionally, I play bass and guitar, so I have some parallel experience with, audio and video setups, and there tends to be a lot of demand for that in public spaces. People want to know where to stand and what to set up and what equipment to use or even buy in some cases. So really, don't be afraid to look for those opportunities to bring every kind of experience that you have to the table. Another thing that I really like about our role in these actions is it's something that I like to reflect back to something that's in our band's statement of purpose on our website. One thing that we mention is to build or break tension. And a few months ago, Donald Trump came to town, came to Carnegie Mellon University for what was called an AI summit. And this was probably one of the more tense actions I've been at recently. Of course, there were plenty of students there, there were alumni there, and they were not happy about the situation, naturally. And there were police lines set up, there was a lot of security, and consequently, there was a lot of tension. And, you get students and you get police, and they sometimes, they have no filter. They're angry, they're antagonistic, they're yelling at each other. It was an interesting one for sure. But in doing that, I'm there with my bandmates. We have some percussion out there. I have my bass. I'm right up there on the front lines, and I'm playing in a cop's face, and I hear them talking to each other. The bass is nice, right? There's this opportunity to kind of equalize a little bit, kind of diffuse some of that antagonism. So I guess the idea there is that you want to not just de-escalate, but prevent escalation to some degree. And I feel like music in the right setting, it can offer some of that. It can kind of humanize people on both sides, I suppose, and lead to or lead away from situations where people are more likely to get hurt. So that whole aspect of building and breaking tension, I think, is really central to our role. And I think that also goes along with what some other people are saying about setting the emotional tone of an event and your song selection. And, your positioning and your approach can all feed into that kind of thing. And that also, it really, oh, thanks. This kind of gets me to wanting to ask the questions of like, why am I a musician, or what am I as a musician? And when it comes to changing the energy of a situation, whether that is de-escalation or whether it's the opposite, whether people are chanting and you're bolstering them, you're trying to influence their morale, or you're trying to even just more mechanically keep them on rhythm. A big part of that for me is using my skills to be able to dynamically respond to like whatever situation I'm in. And that's like really the motivation. Like why improve, why be ready, why put yourself out there, is because you're gonna find yourself, you know, in these situations on the street, and you wanna be there. You wanna be able to like offer something that adds, and the feedback that we get after we play at a lot of these events is, you know, the music really made it for me. The music, you know, it changed my expectations of what this event was gonna be. So that to me is what I always reflect on to try to keep myself sharp, you know, keep myself motivated. You know, you're there to be there in real time. You know, you make things memorable for people. And when people remember something like that, when it's memorable to them, it feels so much more like you're part of a living movement rather than you just went to an event. I think I'll leave it there.
Thank you. Thank you, Jay. Thank you very much. And now we have from BLO Dress and Nancy and Kangs. Thank you.
Right. Good afternoon. A lot of what I heard just now and from RMO earlier kind of mirrors a lot of the things that BLO does. In order to decide which gigs we're going to do, first of all, we have a gig widget on our website that anybody from the public can request a gig. And we ask them for all of the relevant information, date, time, place, also what role they want us to play, what elements of their organization might have trans, queer, BIPOC, indigenous, et cetera, representation, and what do they expect the legal implications to be? Is this an arrestable event, or does it have a permit? All that kind of stuff. We also might reach out to other events that members know about based on some of the members' own activities, either through their work. We have a lot of union members. A lot of the members of the band are also very involved in different activist organizations with things opposing ICE and Palestinian support, et cetera. So it's a full range of things. When we get a request on the gig widget, information goes out to the whole band, and then we vote on whether or not to approve it. If we get an approval in principle, we tell them we're interested, but then the next step is, do we have enough people to field a band? So we invite band members to sign up, and do we have enough instruments? Do we have something that will represent the band well? We have talked about, but haven't yet implemented, an idea that I heard from RMO earlier, that if we don't really have enough instruments to field a full band, that we would have a percussion component. And we've talked about doing workshops internally to train non-percussionists on how to be effective support for activities with that. And presumably some of our own percussionists would be with us as well for that. Once we decide that we're going to do a gig, internally, somebody will volunteer to be the tactical coordinator and somebody will be musical. And the tactical person is the one that contacts the organizers and figures out all the things like, are we going to play, is there a stage? Will we play on the stage? Is there a speaker's podium? What's the parade route? Where will we be in the parade? Are we going to play before the speakers or after or in the middle? All of those things. And what other special requests do they have, or how can we best support them? The musical coordinator usually will figure out what's the set list, and we tend to have individual conductors for songs, so it might go as far as figuring out by volunteer, who's going to conduct which tunes, how's that all going to work. Those two people come to the gig, and we generally do what they tell us to do, what has been prepared. Ideally, anybody in the band can take on either of those two roles, and we're having internal workshops for things like conducting and soloing to try to amplify the abilities of the people in the band. And I think I've just gone over, sorry.
So I'm going to speak to costuming. Our band has two motifs for the most part, black and red, which is a classic anarchist vibe, and pink and black, which is another classic vibe. We tend to dress up as frilly and camp as possible to provide a more greater flair for the action, and we have in the past been more dance-oriented, but we've gone through sort of a fallow period after the shutdown, and we are in a period of resurgence. Of course, we've had many people come to us in this last year desperate to find an outlet. What else can I say? That's really about it on that level. We have a wide variety of songs to play. I don't generally think of them as particularly suited to specific issues, but a lot can be, and we definitely have a lot that are chant supportive. Speaking of chants, I'll give it to Kangs.
On the way over, I'm just going to add, we did add some tunes recently that, for instance, a Palestinian tune that has been very well received in Palestinian support actions, Wayno Ramallah. All of our tunes, the charts are on our website, Breast Liberation Orchestra. They're available for download. We invite anybody to use them.
Yeah, we also newly added an IRA tune because we've played the St. Patrick's Day, like Palestine, Ireland, Solidarity the last 2 years. I'm Kangs. I'm going to speak to Chants a little more. So whoever is the conductor of each song chooses whether we're going to have a chant in it. Usually the chant will come in the middle of a song, so we'll play this part of the song, then we'll have a drum break, might use this signal to chant, and then the conductor chooses the chant. It might be a call and response, it might be from the river to the sea, Palestine will be free, and then everybody repeats that and we all do it together. I've been, I've come up with a few things recently, and I have to admit, they're not original, but they've grown originally from hearing, like, I heard one of our members, Greg, say, we want ice in our tea, not in the streets. And then I've been at a lot of anti-ice demonstrations, and I spontaneously started to say, we want ice in our tea, not in the streets. And then I said, we want ice in our drinks. And then the whole group of people said, not in the streets. And then I said, we want ice hockey. People said, not in the streets. I said, we want ice, ice baby, not in the streets. And and then you just kind of riff off that. And we're similarly, I added like no borders, no walls, sanctuary for alls, no walls, no borders, fuck Trump's orders. Rhymes are nice. It helps if practices the newer ones a little at practice so the band knows what I'm saying, and apparently also having a megaphone helps everybody to be louder. So I tend to not really think about the megaphone because I'm holding a trombone and I'm thinking about what I'm gonna do tactically, but megaphone, don't be scared of the megaphone. You can never be too quiet. You can never be too loud. You can be too quiet. And then just getting folks out to gigs from the band, sometimes it really helps to text people because not everybody reads every email, or people are inundated with their different group Discord or Signal things, and I've reached out to people who are on all of those and are like, oh, thanks. I didn't realize we were having a gig this weekend. I can actually make it. Oh, great, we have bass. We have a sousaphone now. And is there anything else you all want to say or that we didn't cover? Because we could give an extra minute to these lovely folks. Okay.
Okay, great. Thank you. Appreciate attention to fashion from BLO. Now, Davey Steinman from Brass Solidarity in Minneapolis.
Hi there, standing up so you can see me better. Yeah, from Minneapolis, Minnesota, Brass Solidarity. We meet at George Floyd Square every Monday. And so thinking about actions and coordination, we just know that we'll be there every week, and so we can invite everyone to join us. And so we think of it as a sonic occupation of the street, and we're offering our music as our gift to share with the neighborhood and the community. And so coordinating with George Floyd Global Memorial, they're active organizers with a lot of events. A lot of our events we tend to do more community events rather than protest demonstrations, but that's always a part of the angle and the mission, and we're definitely a part of those where groups reach out to us. So working with George Floyd's aunt, who's a member of George Floyd Global Memorial, and the Rise and Remember celebrations on the Angelversary in the spring is a big event we do, and so the coordination is a lot asking what some of the event coordinators want and need, what are their goals and their values. And I think it's been a struggle sometimes when I've played in groups where a group comes in and they think, oh, we have to do a sad song right now. And then the family of the victim's like, we would like an energetic, upbeat song. And so to be able to coordinate actually with the groups and not assume you know what the people need or want, the people most strongly affected, that can be really surprising and sometimes the opposite of what I've seen. So that's been a big one. Coordination, costumes, and chants on the topic. The costumes kind of easy in the terms of like we have t-shirts and tank tops and sweatshirts and stuff. And for coordination, we use an app called Band App. So it can include the calendar and file sharing for practice recordings and some chord progressions. We do listening by ear and also by charts, and it's a mix of both. And the struggle back and forth, I found that the inclusion and accessibility of offering both has often been the best way. And chants, a lot of times the megaphone is the physical and the figurative talking stick. So thinking about who's going to use it when and to say what is important. So yeah, rehearsing and practicing whose streets, our streets, or say their names are important ones. And painted on the street of George Floyd Square are the names of people who've lost their lives to police violence. And so saying the names, having certain ones in advance for certain events, a lot of them are angelversaries of people or family members have lost their lives, a lot of family participation in those events. And so giving them the chance to hold the megaphone too, and letting them know in advance to prepare something to say, because it's not just about giving someone a microphone, it's about giving them the tools to succeed. And a lot of times that takes preparation, and it can be kind of unnerving and unhelpful if someone maybe going through distress is handed a megaphone without preparing in advance. So giving the opportunity to succeed to the people that you want to succeed and letting them know your goals and making sure you know their goals too. So on our website, we have a booking submission form, and we ask really clear things, like not just like when and where, but do you have mission statement goals, or what are your goals for this action in particular? And putting our mission statement out there. We've done some band workshops lately about identifying our band values and our goals and our mission. So thinking about racial justice as a goal and a mission and a value, and how to achieve those goals. Sharing our music to uplift the community, whether it's in celebrations or whether it's in candlelight vigils, are part of our tools that we can offer. And so being clear with each event how to offer those tools and make them the best fit has been really important. And I have a theater background, so my career is in theater performance, and I think the theater stage management and production management is a big asset that doesn't always happen in the music community. So thinking about a technical rehearsal is sometimes foreign to bands when sometimes they do sound checks, but if we play in the street without amplification, a lot of times bands don't always think about technical rehearsals, but it can include everything like sound and lighting and staging and public flow, and like a lot of other groups have talked about, accessibility, wheelchair accessibility, sidewalks, being able to get everyone to hear you and see you and to participate in the best way to connect with people has been really important. And so whether it's rehearsals and thinking about the event, with physical staging of stuff, or if it's about communication, and I know a lot of people talked about that, and I want to echo the sentiment of being able to have an app and a text message. Not everyone is going to be on an app versus not everyone's going to read an email. And so multiple forms of communication. It takes more work to do it, but we get better turnout, and because we want everyone in the band to know what the plan is, and so to communicate it on the app we use called Band App. If you're curious about it, talk to me afterwards. I'll show it to you. But also using a text app so that you don't have to make a group text thread, because those can be challenging, especially like iPhone or Android or other software doesn't always have group texts that work. So we use an app that sends individual text messages to all 30 to 100 of us without having to send each individual message, but also without having a thread, because people don't want to get spammed with 100 likes on the message of what the app is, or what the gig is. So doing those and thinking about the technology of how we communicate each other has been a big part, because we want people to show up and know when and where to offer their gifts. Thank you.
Thanks. Thank you, Davey. Thank you, everybody, for being so succinct. It's so much to talk about. Sarah Blust is from Rude Mechanical Orchestra in Manahatta.
I'm going to stand up too. That's a good idea. Hi, everyone. So it's just funny because I think Brass Celebration Orchestra and Rude Mechanical Orchestra kind of developed a lot of our processes like around the same time. So when I hear you speak, I'm like, yep, that's what we do. Yep, that's what we do. But I'm just trying to think about things that are kind of unique to the Rude Mechanical Orchestra. I guess one thing that's about us is we think of ourselves as a band, but also as a political project. So a lot of how we organize is focused on the fact that we are a project, a political project as well as a band. We are responsive mostly. We have a gig submission form or a gig request form. We review those gig requests at our Tuesday meeting. And the way that we kind of decide should we do something is it all ties back to our mission statement. So we have a very broad mission statement. And when we are asked to do an action or a gig, is it aligned with our mission statement is our first question. And if it is, we move forward. If it's not, we don't do it. And then it's a capacity question. Can we? And yes, I think how we've been able to be more responsive these days has been to split up and to have more percussion kind of options. If you bring the full band to something, we may not be able to be in the street as much, but if we can have 3 or 4 drummers come, then we can be more in the street. And that's what's most important, really, to be in the street. One drum can make a huge difference. So that's a bit about us. I have been thinking, though, lately about, we've been doing this for 21 years. That's a crazy thing to think about. But I have been curious about what it would be like for us to create our own actions. That's something that I'm percolating around. We are very responsive. There's always things that, there's always ways that we could be doing more to be responsive, but I also would like to be, what would it be like to create our own action? So that's just an idea that I have in my head these days. In terms of coordination, whoops, oh shoot, thank you. In terms of coordination, when we decide to do something, we have captains. That's our internal lingo. We have co-captains who manage the logistics of the action. So they can contact the organizers. They figure out kind of what they need from us, what they want from us, what kind of chants would be most helpful, what kinds of songs would be most helpful. And then we have different roles that we ask people to fill in the band. So for example, song caller, spieler. We have a role for spieler. I don't know if you all do this, but we try and sometimes with our songs, if there's a chance, we try to educate folks as to what the song is, why are we playing it, what's the history of the song. So that's what we call a spiel. And we have the role of police liaison, if we need that. We have the role of chant leader. That's really important. But often we do ask the organizer that we're working with, can you have someone who is a chant leader who will work with us? Because that, to me, makes an action very successful when you have someone who is next to you, who leads chants with what you're playing. You're much more effective that way if you have that figured out ahead of time. So those are all roles that we try and fill when we're on the street. One thing I was pulling up that I think is a little bit different with us is that we try, I mean, we're not the best at this, but if we're moving into an action that is where there's arrestability, where it could be high risk, we do an internal band check called Hi Kate. And I actually had to contact my band and have them remind me, what does Hi Kate stand for again? But it's this thing that we try and ask ourselves before we move into an action that has some risk attached to it. And Hi Kate stands for, so the idea is that you have a buddy. So if I'm gonna do this action, I have someone who's my buddy. And my buddy asks me the Hi Kate questions. And the first thing is health concerns. Do I have any health concerns? So someone would say, Sarah, do you have any allergies? Did you eat today? Do you have any health concerns we should know about? Number 2 is instrument. Like if the shit goes down, what do I need to do with your instrument? C is contacts. What's your emergency contact? Now, ideally, you definitely do this ahead of time, but sometimes emergency contacts can change really quickly. So if we have a buddy, we talk about who's the person that I should call if we get in trouble today. Arrestability, what's your comfort level with being arrested? Is this an absolute, you cannot be arrested, period? Or are we able to play with the edge of arrestability today? Because sometimes we don't, that can happen. Timing, when do you have to leave? When do you have to get out of here? Emotions, how are you feeling? So Hi Kate is an acronym that we use as a way to try and address ahead of time some of the information we need to know to be safe when we are moving into spaces that have an arrestability concern. So that's one thing that I think was a good, interesting tool. RMO is, in terms of how we look, we are green and black. And it's interesting. I think a long time ago, we do try and have some glitter, right? Some style, some panache. But I think in a way, almost like glitter is like a form of resistance. I think there's so many things to be so heartbroken about that I think sometimes when I do wear glitter, it's almost like I'm doing this because we are the joyful counter to the fascism that we see around us. So in a certain way, like glitter, I think you can take that as, to be a little bit of of resistance, right? But a long time ago, there's a good friend named Josh McPhee who has Seeds of Resistance and runs the Interference Archive in Brooklyn, New York. And Josh took me aside and he was like, you guys really, you look like you're all over the place. I think you should be more uniform. And it was an interesting conversation because Josh was saying to me, when you come into a space, if you look like you have coordinated your costume or your look, you actually command a lot more power in the space. And so there was a moment when Josh was actually going to work with us to try and get us to kind of be more uniform, quote unquote, because he saw that as a way that we could kind of take up more power and kind of command more attention in a way that was impactful in these kinds of actions. But internally, I think the band, we have a lot of anarchists in our band, and we were like, no, we don't want to be a uniform band. So that's something we kind of go through once in a while. It's like, should we all try and look the same or should we not? And we're kind of in the middle there. But green and black, we agree on those colors. Let's see. I had to put some notes here. In terms of chant, how much time do I have, John? Sorry.
2 minutes.
2 minutes, okay. Chant support, we are all about chant support. What we have done over the years is save the chants that we know and that we've used at different actions. We have them on our website, so we kind of go back to an archive of chants, which has been really helpful. But we always ask our organizers, what chants would be most helpful to you? And our drum line basically is a machine that just never stops when we're at an action. And if you're really doing chant support, then the songs go on top of that beat as opposed to trying to make the chants fit into the songs that you're playing, right? So when we're doing a standing set, we can be a lot more creative and fun with our rhythms and like our interaction with the audience and that kind of thing. But if we're doing chant support, it is about 4 to the floor and just maintaining that rhythm and making our songs fit onto that. So that is a big kind of difference, right, in terms of when we're in a action situation versus a standing set situation, which I guess is how I put it. The band generally is less comfortable in a standing set situation. We are much more, we love to be in the background. We love to be the support team. We are not very comfortable having the spotlight on us. So actually in a place like HONK, it kind of pushes us a little bit out of our comfort zone, because suddenly there is an audience that we have to connect with. I'm actually very used to that at this point, you'd hope after 21 years, but there's a lot of people in this project who are activists first and then musicians, and so to be suddenly in front of an audience may not actually feel that comfortable to many members of the Reed Mechanical Orchestra, because we are very much there to support others. So it's interesting for us to be standing in front of an audience sometimes, but I think we're getting better at it over time, and we try and support all of our members to feel comfortable there. Let's see. Okay, yeah, and so just to kind of wrap it up, we have a few forms of communication that help us organize. We, thanks to John Barker, who's created this incredible gig page that most bands in New York City use. That's how Hungry March Band uses. It's what Funk Rust Brass Band uses. It's what Reed Mechanical Orchestra uses. And this allows us to organize all of our gigs, see them, sign up for them. So that's really a very helpful tool. We use Signal. We have a listserv, and we use Jitsi as a free kind of non-Google form of video conferencing. So that's good to know. We really try and, we do use Google Docs, yes, but we are trying to get away from that as much as humanly possible. JITSI, so Jitsi is, it's the lefty version of Zoom. And we use that for all of our video conferencing. And that's it. I think I'll end there. Thank you very much. All right.
Thank you, Sarah. I think it would be wonderful to continue this great conversation, but I think actually we should stop here, because the next event is Matt Taylor moderating community organizing and movement building here, and then the beginning of a tune share in Remus Sculpture Court. So we want to thank Ted from Forward Marching Band, and Jay from Mayday, and Dress, Nancy, and Kangs from Brass Liberation, Davey from Brass Solidarity, and Sarah from Reed Mechanical Orchestra. Thanks to all of you. Wonderful.